Based on the figures of the National Bureau of Statistics, Nigeria is in a bind. 1 in 4 children under 5 still dies of malaria every year, while malnutrition still remains a major childhood killer condition. The incidence of poverty is put at over 50%, and maternal mortality rates are the worst in the world. No thanks to corruption.
We believe it is time to complement the efforts of Nigerians who have struggled for good 12 years to ensure that we have freedom of information regime in the country, to equally come together to agitate for having another round of legislation that will complement all the anti-corruption laws in Nigeria, be it ICPC, be it EFCC, be it Code of Conduct, be it NEITI, or even public procurement.
However, the Nigerian government says it intends to change these worrying numbers as it has zero tolerance for corruption. It says that in a bid to stem the tide, President Goodluck Jonathan signed the Freedom of Information Bill into law. This liberty, however, must be exercised with caution and restraint.
We must therefore understand the proposals for a Whistleblowers Protection Act in the context of open, transparent, and accountable governance. The scope and concepts of whistleblowers protection is varied and wide. Although commonly associated with the exposure of corrupt practices within institutions, it is important to broaden the scope of whistleblowing to cover not just offenses related to corruption, criminal actions, and or misuse of powers or discretion, but to other actions which have an impact on society. For example, environmental destruction, threats to public safety, health, or deliberate attempts to cover up any of these wrongdoings.
The United States government, while utterly condemning corruption because of its retrogressive tendencies, views it as a threat to development and a potential source of cheap funds for terrorist financing.
Across the world, there is evidence that the proceeds of corruption go to a number of criminal activities, whether it's narco-trafficking, arms trafficking, you name it. The proceeds of corruption very often get involved in criminal activity, one of which is terrorism. We have seen in cases even petty corruption can feed terrorism.
According to the Doing Business in Nigeria 2011 report, Nigeria ranks 137th out of a list of 187 countries with regards to the ease of doing business in Nigeria. Now, while the Whistleblower Protection Bill is a very worthy development, the worrying thing is that the head of the Whistleblower Protection Agency will have to be somebody who is nominated by the Chief Justice of Nigeria. That person will then be confirmed by the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now, these two institutions, to say the least, are agencies that have got a very poor record when it comes to anti-corruption in Nigeria. In Abuja, Chima Nwankwo reporting for CCTV.
Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe officially opens the 7th session of Parliament this week against a backdrop of growing disharmony in the country's Government of National Unity, GNU, made up of his party, ZANU-PF, and the opposition Movement for Democratic Change. The strained relations have centered on a dispute on when elections should take place. President Mugabe has been pushing for an early ballot in defiance of his partners in the GNU, who say elections can only be held after a new constitution has been passed into law. The new constitution, currently in the making, is due for completion in March 2012. The issue of the election roadmap is expected to be top of the agenda in the president's address, in which he is also expected to talk about other pieces of legislation that he is keen to see pushed through. Among these are the controversial indigenization bill, which requires all foreign-owned companies to sell a majority stake to locals, and the Zimbabwe Human Rights Bill, which the opposition accuses ZANU-PF of attempting to fast-track into law in the just-ended session of Parliament. The indigenization bill has been the cause of heated debate in government and within ZANU-PF itself, and President Mugabe's pronouncement in his speech should set the tone for the future of that proposed law. The opening session of Parliament is accompanied by a lot of traditional pomp and ceremony. But once that is done and out of the way, President Mugabe is expected to get down to the business of delivering his opening speech to lawmakers. This at a time when both ZANU-PF and the MDC have said the GNU is no longer tenable. The solution, they say, lies in Zimbabweans going back to the polls. The date for those fresh elections, however, remains a sticking point. The president is expected to rally his party lawmakers to push for an early election date. Whether or not his wishes carry the day on that issue, as well as others that are up for debate, will wait to be seen in this next session of Parliament. Reporting for CCTV News, I'm Farai Mwakutuya in Harare, Zimbabwe.